Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. We're here after the long Memorial Day weekend, and we have some news. It looks, some potentially positive news, although every time we hear something about moving on to a certain level and things opening up, we have somebody coming out and saying, pouring cold water on it. But we'll discuss, the press conference that Gary Bettman's going to have today at 4:30, and there's a availability after that, and some of the things that we've heard over the weekend. But we'll start with some non-hockey news in our pre-show. Go ahead, Russ.
Well, first one is we're hearing about how Major League Baseball, the owners, have a new deal that they're going to basically pitch to the players, and that was 4 hours ago. Like that, so far, I don't get a good feeling. And here's the deal. This deal flies in the face of what these owners would want, which is the exact opposite if we were talking about taxes and real life. But in their sport, what they would like to have happen is pay the lower paid players in full and then have it as a sliding scale so that the upper players get the least amount. And I listened to that for a minute, and I was like, yeah, and these owners would vote for that for taxes too, right? Right. It's never going to pass.
Well, okay, because I think that the owners had given the players their proposal over the weekend, and today was the day that the players were going to give their rebuttal or response and their potential offer. And I heard Buster Olney, Jan, this morning on Toronto radio, does a segment on TSN in Toronto, and essentially said that if there isn't any progress, if there isn't any give on one side today, that he thinks the deadline, the unofficial deadline, is June 1st, and if they don't get something done by next Monday, he thinks it's toast.
I mean, Joel Sherman is doing the same, right? So they're clearly at a critical point in junction in the negotiations. You can't keep pushing this off and pushing this off and pushing this off. And public sentiment is, I know the Major League Baseball, we talked about it last week. They leaked that email last week to make the players look bad, right? And both sides, and Noah Syndergaard's tweet the other day, probably didn't help matters in terms of the shot he took across the bow to the owners. So both sides are looking pretty bad, but fans aren't going to care after a while. They're going to just go, all right, you know what? If I end up getting football back, and end up getting hockey back, and end up getting basketball back, somebody's going to get left holding the bag. And if baseball is not smart and careful, they're going to be the ones. And Russ and I have been all over Rob Manfred in terms of as a commissioner. Neither one of us have been very in favor of most of the moves that he's done. So both sides need to figure out an answer, and relatively rapidly, because they're going to be on the short end holding the stick very soon. And if they don't figure out a way to resolve their difficulties, and both sides are in the wrong. Look, there were negotiations. I'm sure, from that email, it looks like that they told the players there was the potential to open it up again, but there's a manner in which to do it, and both sides are failing the public relations battle right now.
Well, they also, I just read, they took the 50-50 revenue split off the table. So that was literally on the table for a week.
Yeah, well, Anthony, the thing that I heard from Olney was that the players' response would be to take, because right now, the owners don't want to pay them the prorated amount of their salary for 81 or 82 games. The players are offering to take maybe 85% of the prorated and then defer the rest until next season when the league is more financially viable. I think if they go down that road, eventually they're going to get close. They're going to get closer to the 50-50 breakdown.
I agree. I agree with you on that front, Mike. Again, it's a good. I think under that scenario, I think it's more. I think it's more agreeable. Certainly for the players, but the owners, well.
Yeah, no, I've always been, I've always been more pro owner than pro player because I see from the owner's point of view. But in this instance, I think the most important thing is to get the game back on the field, and there has to be compromise, especially in this situation with the world the way it's been. stop fighting over a dollar here or there and get the game, because this could irreparably harm. Russ and I have talked about this. This could irreparably harm baseball. Baseball has been on the decline from a national sport to a regional sport over the last, say, 15 years. And if it keeps going this way and they keep alienating their fans, it's going to be third behind basketball pretty soon.
I think it's going to be fourth. I think they could go behind the NHL at some point. I mean, I don't think they realize they've survived everything. And look, baseball will always survive. There will always be some baseball being played, and there will be a league. It just won't ever be as popular as it was. But I do think in this climate right now that this is worse than the 81 strike. This is worse than 1995. This is the worst that they have looked really in my lifetime. And if they don't cure it, they're going to lose big time. First, they'll lose it in the stands, and then eventually with the TV contract, it won't be nearly as much.
Yeah.
Okay. And Mike, honestly, I feel like they're already there. I mean, if you're saying that, I think basketball has already in the national conference.
Yeah, I think they have too.
Has already passed. Baseball is now third. To me, it's third. Yeah. Lock solid third now. It's football and then basketball.
Well,
especially when you count for collegiate sports, add that to the mix as well. In the interest level, we're talking about but even at the pro level, I think that's true as well. Younger generations don't.
I was going to say the demographic is younger for basketball, but the ratings for the World Series are always better than the NBA Finals.
I mean, Hispanic players certainly in this circumstance, baseball as well, especially from the Caribbean islands, Dominican, Puerto Rico, certainly. But even then, I think once you get to the States, my own experience as well is that, they adapt, the culture becomes a bit more adapted, and unless it's passed down, the kids have picked up way more in the current generation more on basketball and football and talk way more about that than they do about baseball.
But just think about this.
And that's the danger. And that, again, to go to what Russ is saying, that's the danger.
Yeah, Anthony, your audio sort of.
Okay. Sorry.
You're good now.
Overcome by Mac in the room for a second there.
Yeah, no. I was just gonna finish off the pre-show by asking Jan, was the tweet from Syndergaard after or before he complained about his $50,000 a month rent?
No, that was the one I was referring to. But it's the comment he made associated with it.
Yeah.
In terms of the response to what was sent to him, indicating that basically they had their salaries, slashed without expectation, and that was the response. In essence, he was throwing the owners under the bus to a certain extent based upon his response to the guy that called him out on the carpet for not paying his rent. That was so not the first tweet. It was the response to his tweet. That was the one where he basically made a comment against ownership.
Yeah, I mean, look, end of the day, if you are already or going to be a two-sport athlete, and let's say you're football and baseball, as dangerous as it is, football is going to win every time now. Baseball had a chance like 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, when football became very dangerous with all the CTE and everything else to actually get players. But now that they've cut half their minor leagues, not half, but it's going to end up being more significant than what they thought it would based on teams going under next year. There's going to be more opportunity for football because there are going to be a lot more college football teams. That's the other thing we could eventually talk about with hockey, but there's some hockey programs teetering now, and I think one has already gone bankrupt in the NCAA and probably more. So
just about Alabama,
University of Alabama, Huntsville.
Yeah, that one's teetering.
Well, because Talbot's trying to raise money. They said if they raise $1 million by the 29th, they'd reinstate it. But there's a bunch of people in the transfer protocol already.
Right. So that one's teetering. But there's a few that have already gone out. I can't remember right off. So I'm just saying. I mean, baseball's pretty much going to lose that opportunity to get young athletes. Anyhow, that's it.
Okay. All right. Let's start it up, Ak.
Hey, everyone. Thanks. Sorry about late. Just getting every last bit of information I can get for your exciting newsworthiness here. Let's see what happens. And I wish I had more. It's kind of when you say you're like on the phone talking to a source, you hold up. I'll be there in the show in a second. You expect to arrive with like lots of news. And I thought I would arrive with more than I did. But
you could have held that through the intro, Ek, and held the suspense. Now people.
I know. I have something.
Everybody's hanging up now.
I have a text thing. I have a text right here, and I'm expecting another text any minute. Because the person I was on the phone with, I told him I had to go, but because they're like, if you want to hang on, I'm on the other line, and that was like something involving the NHL. I'm like, I can't really hang on. So when you get off the line, so we're going to do that. So there is suspense.
Great.
All right.
Start the show.
Hello, Hockey World. It's Tuesday, May 26th, 2020. 2020.
I'm Michael Agello, and I'm just saying, have a Coke and a smile and shut up.
I'm Jan Levine, and Michael's attempt at advertising really isn't working. Except for us.
I'm Anthony McGee from Sunrise Philly Magazine.
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Eklund. You're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. It's the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you in on coming in the hockey world. Didn't come to yesterday, Memorial Day here. It was great. My Memorial Day was great. I hope you guys all had a good Memorial Day yesterday as well. I was not at the shore, which is usual for us on Memorial Day, but I'll be there. My wife and I have our wedding anniversary coming up at the end of this week, so we're going to be at the shore next week, but, very socially safe on the beach if we get there at all. But we come to you today bearing good tidings of great joy.
It's not even Christmas.
For unto us in the city of New York
There's
today,
so many months. This is about as close as you're going to get. So
this is about it. I mean, after what we've been through, this feels like Christmassy.
Mhm.
We have perhaps some news coming. Well, we have definitely news coming at 4:30 today, right after this show. We'll be writing about it and talking about it and everything. As Gary Bettman's going to come on and give an official announcement as to what's happening and where we are. So, talking to people, this sounds really intriguing. I still am warned by some people to not expect as much as we might want to.
Well, we're not going to get dates.
We're going to get approximate dates, I was told.
Right.
We're going to get, basically, I mean, the NHL hasn't been exactly very tight-lipped about this stuff, and for good reason. I mean, there's some things you have to be tight-lipped about, and there's some things that you really don't have to be tight-lipped about. You don't really have to be tight-lipped about something that you want your fans to kind of know about. So they've been telling people little bits and pieces, and I think what you'll see today is more of a synopsis of what we've been talking about for a long time, the things that Kevin has heard, things whatever Friedman has heard and Pierre LeBrun has heard, and all the other insiders out there, and we're gonna get a summation of that to a degree.
Well, the one thing I'll say is at least the NHL now has gone back ahead of the other sports in the sense that they gave a report on Sunday about, we'll talk about the small groups. And then today, now they're going to talk about the playoff format and the draft lottery. So they have moved ahead of everybody else, at least showing us a plan to give at least an idea of how they can do it, where even the NBA still hasn't fully developed that yet.
And anybody who's trying to make plans in this period of time right now knows how impossible this is. I mean, it's like virtually, like I said, my daughter's a senior graduating high school. She is in 2 weeks from now was supposed to go to a seniors week type thing down the shore, but house rented with 11 friends of hers, now 7 or maybe, for a week at the shore, the big deal. And we don't even know, we can't even sit there and say, we say, yeah, as of now you can go, but things might change quickly. And, who knows? It's tough. I mean,
times are tough. We went to a dude ranch for a half a day. That was our senior day. What's senior week? Come on, man.
But they do. And, it's like,
it was senior week for us.
What is this, City Slickers?
A week
I think we were old, Russ. I think our parents
4 or 5 days we were down in Wildwood. Yeah.
Wow.
It was fun.
Billy
It's something to look forward to. So, here it's horrible.
Lots of Zimas were imbibed.
Zimas.
the demon rum. Okay. This whole plan is, we don't know exactly what Bettman is going to reveal at 4:30, but we get an indication from what was revealed yesterday in the statement about testing, about small group access, about teams getting together in their cities, and I'm hopefully he'll give a little more detail. But this whole thing is laced with contingencies. That's the reason why no date has been set, because God forbid if there's a spike, then they have to push things back a little bit. And, then all the things that we've heard over the last week regarding players from Europe being able to come back into the U.S. without the 14-day quarantine that they got from the federal government, that might be changed because of a spike. So, I think the NHL, I'm a little surprised because last week I got the impression, based on the slow-footedness of them, was that they were looking for cover from the NBA and from MLB to come out with their plans before they would come out with theirs. But finally, I think they showed some motivation and showed some fortitude and just said, okay, we're going to put our plan now. And I think the best path right now is get going as soon as you can.
Yeah. I mean, you have to start doing things. You have to we have to try. It's basically you have to try. That's really what it comes down to. You know what I mean, you have to try. There's no point in not trying. It's and what I wrote about today before the story came out, my big blog was about how kind of ticked off I was at this whole people coming out in the last 24 to 48 hours talking about how this Stanley Cup on the asterisk on it, it's wrong, it's all that stuff, and I'm just it's like. To me, it's people who've totally lost their minds. Get real.
But that we expected that. I said there are still people, there are still hockey nerds who talk about 1995 and say that the Devils Stanley Cup victory in 1995 isn't legitimate. So of course you're going to get people that say 2020.
Hang out with those people. I've never heard that actually. I want to be honest. As much as I hate the Devils, I've never heard anyone do
No, and I haven't either. But they all said they were going to do that. But heck, I'll tell you what else they're losing their minds over. When the small groups were announced, when they heard that coaches weren't going to be on the ice, they were like, well, if there's no coaches on the ice, that's not my hockey. It's like, they're going to be up in a box. Who cares?
Yeah.
And the other thing that they were freaking out is the potential of players wearing a mask while they're waiting on the bench to get into the game. They were just like, oh, well, forget that. It's like, won't you take the sport in any way, shape, or form it comes back? That's what I would be thinking about as just a fan.
Can I throw out some logistics? Because one of the things that's interesting about this is we were joking around the other day, that this whole coronavirus has meant the end of logistics, the death of logistics. The weirdest thing, my life with children, Anthony, Jan, I'm sure you guys can relate to this, is all about logistics. It's I have to figure out who's driving who to where at what time and what vacation we can plan about what tournament, and all these things are just and the fact that this virus has just destroyed the having to deal with that is kind of freeing at times, but also a little bit obviously unnerving.
It's unnerving if you're used to having a structured schedule, which I know, as we all know, we all operate off that. It's really, we're looking for any semblance of structure.
Yeah.
Of any kind. And my own contribution to this, to what you guys are saying as well, with those who were complaining about this setup, is you can't again, it's the old phrase of don't let perfect be the enemy of good. I think this is good enough.
Yes.
What the league is putting forward here is good enough. You could, if you want to quibble about the number of teams that are in, I could see that. But in terms of completely trashing the format and just saying scrap the whole thing, I think if this can work, you have to give it a shot.
Yeah, I'm good enough. I'll say this is actually pretty brave. It's pretty brave of everybody involved. I mean, I think that this is something you can sit back and say that these owners, these players who are going to be involved in this deserve a hand here. I mean, for doing this, I think
they're not arguing over money. They finished that pretty quickly, actually.
Right. This is not that. So they're going out there. They're going to be away from their families, which probably they want to be for a little while. Maybe not as long as they're going to be, but everybody's But at the same time, they're doing something here that I think is legitimately brave. Is legitimately, and I think if there's an asterisk on this, it should be thank you for doing this. That's the asterisk.
Yeah, the players are taking a risk. The owners are not going to be with the other players on the ice, taking hits and risking getting anything. They will probably be alone in their own box. So, 6 feet away from somebody else. So they're not taking the same risk. They're taking a financial risk.
They make a lot of money, and everyone's going to be don't feel sorry for them. I'm not saying I feel sorry for them. I'm just saying that this is something that they could have said no to. They really could have. They could have.
So I read the memo a couple of times yesterday. The one thing, as I wrote about, not first of all, just remembering all the nuances of everything you have to do is mind-boggling, let alone trying to follow everything that was in there. And the scary part is that's just for phase 2, not even phase 3, the opening of camps, and not return to action. Right. So, I give the league credit because honestly, from having read through it, it was pretty damn detailed. I mean, there was an enormous amount of detail in there. Now, granted, some things may get scaled back, but you have to give the league, in terms of the parties together, for coming together and really putting together a very good document in terms of what has to be followed for the potential return from a phase 2 perspective. And that's, to me, what having gone through it. So, Anthony, talk about logistics and Eklund logistics. That whole document is logistics central.
It is.
What has to get followed for this to come about.
It is, and that's why some of it seems overwhelming because like we've all but life is like, I mean, we all have been to the market, right? We've all been shopping for food. Like there's a whole bunch of things you do now when you do that you didn't do before. There's just
everything in life has gotten 100 times harder in that regard because now you do have to plan every little thing out. The NHL didn't have to do this much planning before. They had it all figured out. They had it, every year it would roll out pretty quickly. Now it's all changed.
Yeah. Well,
and we'll talk about the draft lottery because that seems to be up in the air as well. But I as soon as I saw this plan for 24 teams and then playing down to 16, I was curious about, and this is low down on the list of priorities. But I'm thinking, okay, this first round, it's not playoffs. But it's not regular season. So how does it factor in? And I'm thinking, okay, Alex Ovechkin, I think, was at 48 goals. Pasternak was at 47, tied with Matthews. They had 12 regular season games, 10 to 12 regular season games left to go. Are these play-in games going to count as quasi-regular season? And will they have chances to get to 50 or not? And Pierre LeBrun just tweeted out about 5 minutes ago, I'm told the NHL still hasn't decided yet what to do with these stats from the round-robin play in round. It's not regular season. It's not playoffs, so it'll be interesting to decide what they do. These are things that bonuses are tied to. So players probably want these numbers to be counted as regular season numbers.
Yeah, but you know what the problem with it is? Unless you're calling it a regular season game,
right?
It's not going to get counted. And I think the NHL is just staying away from that right now, knowing that there will be some blowback from that.
And I'll give you another thing, Anthony and Russ and Dan and everybody else. The 7 teams that are not making the playoffs, those players won't get their opportunity to pad their numbers. So how can they allow 24 teams or the 16 teams that are playing in the play-in round to do it, and not the 7 teams that were eliminated? So it's an uneven playing field.
Does anybody feel bad for the fan bases of those 7 teams? Like I kind of do. Like I kind of have that going on in my head. Like I'm not saying they were done and they weren't going to make the playoffs, but I don't know, something about it just still like they're going through the same stuff everybody else is going through.
Their team had 3/4 of a season to put themselves in playoffs.
That's true, Russ, and that's what I kind of said about this asterisk thing. We did play like 70 games.
Right.
I mean, that's not like
it's not like you played 30 games and then you just stop.
Right, but I mean, I do get the point of the remaining 12 and the races tightening up and things of that sort. And I think when we get into the matchups and things of that sort, I'm sure as we go on down the pipe, because obviously we all got bones to pick with each other on this, right, Mike?
But the other thing, and you made the point the other day, and I don't know if it was online or what, but like Carolina won 3 going into the pause, right?
Yeah, that's what I said.
They could have easily lost 3 after that. Like it's just
but you don't know. But
that's when the music stopped. That's all right. So
anybody who wants to predict anything Carolina's done over the last couple of years.
If you're a hockey player, you're not going to be thinking that.
So the interesting part is for the teams that aren't playing, right? Depending on when the league resumes play, they may go almost 9 months without playing a game that has any impact.
Yeah.
Right. That's the interesting part, right? Is the breadth of the gap that's going to exist between teams playing is going to be kind of something that has to get monitored and figured out, because 9 months is an enormous amount of period of time between games that matter.
Yeah, I will say that Carolina. Well, I don't want to say they
say that point for a second. I just want to say this because I know, but in fact, I think it's almost a relief to some of those fan bases. I mean, okay, Detroit, you know your team is be the worst in the league, so you've saved yourself 10 to 12 games of pain. And honestly, the Sabres have sucked since November. So what the hell do they really want to see 10 more games of that crap?
Okay, the one thing I was going to say though, in regards to Carolina and Tampa, but especially Carolina, they have made it very clear, whether they wanted to send this message or not, that they don't feel like playing the Rangers because they don't like the stats. And they shouldn't have done that, because we all know players could say, hey, it wasn't that, it was about this and the other. But when you get down into it in the locker room, they have put themselves a little bit behind just by doing that.
I wrote in my blog, they gave the Rangers a psychological advantage before even the puck is even dropped.
It couldn't be the fact that the Rangers have 3 goalies better than the
Carolina. If you want to bring that up as a point, I can certainly.
Well, that is the point. I think they know that. we've talked about it since the deadline when Don Waddell didn't get Robin Leonard and got Brady Shea instead. Yeah, he helped his defense a little, but you still have the same goalies. So, yeah.
Right.
And then Tampa, I think Tampa's still harmed from last year's playoffs. I think mentally, even though they had a great regular season, until they advance in the playoffs beyond the first round again, Tampa is sort of showing us that there's still something there about that. Because honestly, no team should have complained about that format. No team. Because at the end of the day, the Bruins aren't getting the same advantage they would have gotten before by being the best team. I don't hear them bitching. But what it shows me is the Bruins have a lot more confidence in their own team that they just stayed away from it. They didn't say a word.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. You're definitely right about that. I think that, but kind of like, also, by the way, there's a 6 o'clock media availability after this. So
Yes.
we're gonna know, like 4:30, you're gonna see this Q&A. I mean, it'll basically be everything. They're gonna make the announcement, but then there's gonna be a 6 o'clock thing. So there'll be news at different stages tonight.
It's going to be on NBCSN. It's going to be on ESPN because it's major news, obviously, because it's the first of the major sports to make any kind of.
I'm sure. Did you say CNN? I bet you CNN covers it too.
Yeah, it's a good chance they will, actually.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Unless Trump's accused anybody of murder. Yeah. Besides that, there's. I don't think. Yeah, I think that CNN could be probably covering it too. As a good
Yeah.
one.
I mean,
It's a good day.
Just saying.
It's a good day because they are going to get a lot of press. The one thing we do need to find out, though, is about this draft lottery. If the play-in series, if you get to play in a play-in series and you still get a chance at the first-round pick, that's wrong.
Well,
that shouldn't happen, and I hope it doesn't.
Now, this is what's come out this morning, and we don't know whether this is going to actually be the case, but obviously the 7 teams that are not taking place in the play-in tournament, they're going to be in the lottery. But according to some reports, the 8 teams that get eliminated in the play-in round would also be in there. So this sort of, this means that more than likely that the draft lottery will not happen until after the play-in round, which would be in July at some point.
Yeah.
I think that's what it should be, don't you? I think.
Yes.
I would think so.
I
Yeah,
heard June 26th was what came out yesterday.
That was Renaud Lavoie who said that, but
But it can't be June the 26th. It can't be June the 26th because they probably won't be playing until July, starting the play around until July. So you're talking about August. The other thing was, do you remember the talk about the NHL going to teams regarding all these conditional deals and coming up with a compromise on conditional picks? Well, that's out the window because if they have or part of that is out the window because some of those things were conditional picks based on where these teams finished and whether they had opportunities to get a pick at a higher level. Those type of trades, like the Toronto trade, where if they have a top 10 pick, they don't have to surrender their first. Well, if they lose in the first round in the play-in round,
yes,
and they win the lottery, they could be in the top 3 based on the rules of the lottery for this year, not if they go back to the old lotteries.
That's an interesting point. I mean, it really is. I mean, there's going to be stuff like that that's inevitable. You can't get around it. I think that it is trying to not please. It's trying to please everybody is impossible. We've all said that. So yeah,
we talked about this, right? Have the 7 eligible for the first overall pick, sliding scale like we normally do.
Right.
Heavily more weighted to the team that finished in the worst record. Have the other 8 have a maximum capacity of what they can move up, maybe at best to the 5th or 6th overall pick, and that's would seem to be I wouldn't say the best optimal solution, but a better solution than allowing the other 8 teams to have a shot at the number 1 pick overall, which would just seem so you can make the playoffs and you can get the number 1 overall pick.
In my opinion, again, I see what you're saying for sure, but in my opinion, it would be better just to sit back and say, okay, the teams that don't make the playoffs are in the lottery. That's what it's always been, and this playoff.
That's what it should be.
That's what it should be. But if you're going to go.
Just do the lotteries always has been because what the play-in round is, even though we can't count it as statistics, it's the end of the regular season. I mean, it is the end of the regular season. The play-in round is essentially deciding what would have happened had these teams, played it out, right? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get to our 16 playoff teams, and that's what we're trying to do with the rest of the regular season if we resumed it. So to me, it's the same thing as we're getting to 16 teams, however we get there.
I mean, the play-in round is really like a more interesting preseason game. That's preseason games. That's really what it is.
Playoff games in a way, It's like
but they're more like preseason because nobody's played.
Your season's over.
No, but it doesn't matter. Nobody's played, so they're going to be like preseason games.
They're like they mean everything, like they're that's the difference. Preseason
they may mean everything, but it doesn't mean somebody's legs are going to be ready to go.
I know.
So
you know what I would compare it to the first few games of the Olympics with these teams getting together. Teams from the players from the same country getting together, playing 2 or 3 practices, hopping on the ice, and playing games of incredible consequence. That's what's these games are going to be very consequential. But the ice conditions might be lousy. The fact that they'll only be in a training camp for a couple weeks. This is going to be it'll be exciting, but it's going to be sloppy hockey.
It's going to be crazy fun though. I mean, and I think that's the end of the day. It's like it's for us. It's going to be and that brings me to my last point about that I'm really just tired of, and that is people saying you've got to win 5 rounds now or whatever.
I know.
Because everyone's like, it's so much harder. But guess what? Somebody's going to do it. Like, it's not right. It can be hard, but it's not like suddenly like maybe no one will win the Stanley Cup because you got to win 5 rounds. No, someone is going to win.
You were going to still have to play 12 games anyway to finish off the regular season.
Well,
so
right.
Well, 8 teams don't have to win 5 rounds. They only have to win 4. The 4 teams.
And how many times do we say like teams are like with like 5 or 6 games left, but you'd say those teams are already playing playoff games. Like we already.
It's a dumb comment.
No, but everybody's looking for a way just to bitch about it. I mean, I see fans.
Yeah.
I see fans online saying this is great, can't wait for the announcement, and then I see other fans saying this is a half-baked idea and it's a terrible, and it's really split. And I think, but at the end of the day, all of those fans are talking about it. That's the win. That's the win here.
I will just tell you that right now I can hear the echoes of the Edmonton media pissing and moaning if the Blackhawks kick their ass in the play-in round. They're going to say, "Oh my God, this is a travesty." When your team for about half the season really sucked. So they don't give me this crap that they lose to Chicago. I mean, Chicago is a flawed team, but they have guys with Stanley Cup, with tons of Stanley Cups like Keith and not Seabrook because he's hurt. Keith and Crawford and Taves and Kane. So they're capable of beating Edmonton, and Edmonton has been a flawed team all year. So that kind of upset is not impossible in this play-in round or in this playoff.
Here's what's interesting about that. Go ahead, Anthony. You go.
No, in terms of Edmonton, it's interesting looking at when you go back to the acquisitions they made at the deadline, how they really put a premium on speed throughout their lineup. And in many ways, it just kind of reminds me a little bit of the Maple Leafs in terms of the fact of how their lineup is sort of structured in terms of especially defensively. We just don't know how good their defense is going to be once we get into the playoffs. So, I think there's a definite chance there. Especially
coming up against a defensive-minded Columbus team, that type of team they've had trouble with all year. So,
I mean, this would be my answer to the Edmonton media. Let's see what McDavid does. It's a long time.
If he's a transcendent player, as we all talk about,
he's going to put his stamp on it.
Well, it's going to be time. Edmonton's going to have to stand up.
And he didn't do it the last time, but he was younger. So,
This gets into what Eck and what Mike has said, right? Eck, you've kind of remember the idea you parried of have the lower seed have to win 4 out of 5 games, which has come up also, right? That was a possible solution to alleviate all the consternation of, oh my God, why are you in this? You're letting lower placed teams advance. That was one of the thought process. Granted, it doesn't appear they're going that direction.
Right.
That was one way to potentially alleviate the argument of why you're doing this approach. Make a team win 4 games as opposed to 3 games.
Which essentially, Jen, is what they have to do to make the playoffs at the end of the year. You know what I mean? Like if you're trying to get in, you got to go pretty much undefeated.
Yeah.
You got to be hot, and it really. It just here's the thing I think is going to be fascinating is that if you're a team and we're talking about those meaningless games between like say the Flyers and the Capitals or whatever it's going to be. They're going to be they play like 3 games or whatever against each other. If that happens, and we sit there and say, okay, well, what would you rather do? Who would you rather play? Like, would you rather play the winner of the 5-12 or the winner of the 8-9 or whatever? Would you rather?
Well,
you're taking a gamble there because if the 12's upsetting the 5,
it really depends on what team you're talking about. It doesn't matter about the slotting.
Well, it comes down to these teams like. Playoffs are so much about matchups, and we really talk about it. And I mean, and people who don't believe it. I mean, the Rangers. I'll never forget the year the Rangers worked like hell to get in the playoffs. And the last day of the season worked and they won a game they shouldn't have. They didn't want to win, but they won it, and they ended up getting the Penguins in the first round. Remember this? And it was just like, where they could have gotten a team that they got smoked because the Penguins were the hottest team in hockey, and everybody knew it by far, and they went on to win the Stanley Cup. It's like these matchups are going to matter, and there's going to be strategy in those first 3 games as to what you want to do. Honestly, there's
So the one piece I'm also interested in seeing, we've talked a lot about, is what happens after the play-in round and what happens after each individual round. Are you reseeding and are you not reseeding? My view, you should be reseeding. Reseeding to the point of the highest seed plays the lowest seed. I know Russ is shaking your head. My view is, that's the way it should be. That's the approach. You don't have to worry about locations. If everybody's in 2 locations and you have 2 places, you don't have to worry about travel. That's why this becomes a lot easier than maybe in the past, because you're not worrying about logistics of travel and everything else. You have everybody in the same location.
Alex Killorn came out and said that the reason that Tampa Bay voted against was because one of the contributing reasons was reseeding. I don't buy it. I think that's face saving. I think it's bullcrap. But I do think that that teams that are going to be one of the top 4 seeds, if you're the number 1 seed, then you want to play the lowest ranked team. I get that, but I see. I don't know how important.
But it should be that way. It really should, because otherwise you have now minimized the regular season even further.
And there's no reason not to if you're in the same city. If everybody's in the same place, it makes no sense that you wouldn't do that.
Right, exactly. It's my point, right? If you have 2 hubs, there's no reason not to.
No, but if the 8 beats the 1, they shouldn't all of a sudden be the top seed. Or that's how the NFL used to do it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Is right. They're 8 beats to 1, right? They end up playing the highest seed still remaining, is the way it should work.
Right.
No, that's fine. It shouldn't be the other way. Like, there have been times where playoffs when they just take that spot.
And
it should just go by bracket, right? Right now it's a line by bracket.
Right.
You shouldn't do it, right? So if the 10 seed wins, right, you have a 7-10 playing, let's say a 2, right? Or let's say however it works out. That lowest seed, whoever's the lowest seed remaining, should play the highest seed in the playoffs. So whoever's number 1 should get the lowest ranked team remaining.
If it sticks to that, I can live with that.
You know what is interesting about that? Years ago, when we had this playoff format that we have currently now, in the normal world, I had my annual lunch with Gary Bettman, and I was up in New York, and I sat, and it's just he and I, and it's great. We have a great time, and he's a great guy, like I've said many times. And I brought this up. I didn't like the bracket thing. I didn't like the fact that it was bracketed now like it is. I thought, why is it that, it should always be the top playing the bottom. I thought it should always be that. It doesn't make sense. And, I got kind of half-heartedly, I don't know if this is real. I don't know if he really meant this or not, but half-heartedly, I was told that they really like, being able to set up on the website a bracket like the NCAA tournament, that so people can fill it out and say, okay, I'm going to fill out this, and this. And I said, is that really a reason to do that? Is that really a reason that you would do that? And I don't think, and he said, no, it's not the reason, but it is nice to have, and I'm like, I'm wondering how much I still wonder to this day how much it really was.
I think the visual does play a role. I think it does. I really do. Even if it doesn't necessarily completely make logistical sense, I do think the league does like that, because if they can kind of tap into the way people get, furious, especially it coming right off of March Madness.
It always comes out of March Madness.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the only problem is pools with like NHL brackets. Like I don't see that happening, right? But
you do lose some markets though. Like if, let's say, Philly loses, a lot of times I would say 75% of Flyers fans, they're done with hockey for the year. Then they're packing up and they're not watching. Where Buffalo seems to watch no matter what, because their team's never in it anyhow. So you do have to watch that. Well, it's true. What do you want me to say?
I mean, it's true. We see it on Hockey Buzz. We see traffic. Like you can just you don't have to know who won the playoffs. You just have to look at our traffic. Like you don't have to know. You can sit there and say, I don't know. I didn't watch a single game, but I can tell you who was eliminated in what round. Like you can see the drop-offs, and then you can see. Also, I could tell you what teams aren't in the playoffs at all, because those traffics go up towards the end of the playoffs, because they're looking for rumors about the draft, or rumors about this and that and that. So it's like, it's people are very predictable that way, but that's normal. That's human nature. I do think this year though could be a little different, because of the fact that we just want to watch something. We want to watch sports. Like, and I think that I watched a little bit of a game the other day, of a soccer game from Germany, just to see what it would be like. I did watch a little bit of this, and it was interesting. Like to see, like, without fans in the crowd, like that kind of thing.
Well, I did see a little bit of NASCAR when it was on, and it was just as boring as it was with people.
NASCAR, but does NASCAR really change any? I mean, it's like that's what it is. I mean, man, sorry.
Here's my biggest problem with NASCAR. Yeah. If you have a lousy car, it doesn't matter how good a driver you are.
Right.
Did
right.
you learn that
And
from Days
is there
of
a better socially distanced sport than NASCAR where people are
I was going to say Eck was right on cue as his phone crashes. We're talking about
the
NASCAR.
backdrop calls the phone?
That's my light.
So the fun part is,
It still has a Floyd feel to it.
have you heard anything as to how they're going to try to market this or how they're going to air this? Has anything come out?
A bracket show. We need a bracket show.
Well,
I haven't heard that. No, and I'm really curious. Great point, Jan. It's a great question because I've been trying to get. I mean, everybody is so afraid of committing to anything at all, because it's like there's a real bit of a jinx going on. And I brought this up to somebody today, and I said, listen, okay, if you're gonna start, and I hear it's gonna be like the middle of July, right? You're gonna start this.
Yeah.
I just the middle of July is 2 months from now. Let's just say it's 2 months from now, roughly. We've already been on quarantine for 2 months, so it's 4 months we would have all been on quarantine. So if you're gonna start the middle of July, I said, the thing that's interesting about all the logistics in that memo that you talked about, Jen, it's like all logistics in there are basically logistics for how things are right now. And in my mind, it's either going to be way better or way worse 2 months from now. Like, I think it's either going to be to the point where you don't have to worry about these too much at all because you're okay, or it's so bad you can't play. So all those logistics that we talk about, they worked out. Does that make any sense? It's like we aren't going to be where we are now 2 months from now. Like
You wouldn't be in any world unless you could go back in time.
But we built these logistics, that all this stuff in there. They built it to where we are now.
Well, they can only make plans based on the way things are now because they can't assume it's going to be better or worse. They have to be flexible to be able to adjust.
Right. But the chances are, and that Funky said in the chat room, said we heard the same thing 2 months ago, and that's not really true. I mean, 2 months ago, March 25th, say, we were in this thing pretty good. We heard it was going to get worse. We heard things were going to get worse, and that's what we were doing. Now it's a totally different universe out there. Things are opening up. People are like doing this, and that's either sending this to like a bad place or sending it to a great place, which will mean we all guessed wrong.
I still don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah. No, I mean,
lost me. And I do feel like we're not going to be where we are now. Like, I feel like that we won't be here. So we're making these things for where we are now. And
where are we going to be, Ek? If we're
we'll
not
be there.
I know.
There.
No, maybe
not here. There.
But if the second wave is coming, we're not playing at all.
Okay.
If that happens, right? We're not playing at all. Right.
So
it's
but
going
to be the summer, sure, but we don't know in terms of a flare because this thing's a long play. We need to realize that, and I think that's the biggest thing that people are forgetting about this.
I agree.
Guard's going to be let down, and
well, so what I was getting at is, are we changing camera angles? Are we adding little? Are we adding?
Worry about that right now.
No. What I'm saying is, if the NHL wants to capitalize, as that backdrop drops again. If the NHL wants to capitalize on basically having the marketplace, they need to come up with ideas to kind of make it better viewing for everybody.
This is good viewing right here.
Sportsnet in 2012 here. No,
it was the big bonsai room.
Like I said, now we're here. We were there. Now we're back.
No, but now we know there's a now we know there's a bonsai tree there. That's great.
Jen, first of all, if they're they're not going to change.
That's got a shining moment.
They're not going to change camera angles because they're going to be playing in NHL rinks, whatever the hubs are. They're going to be playing in, say, it's Vegas and Edmonton.
These are like things that are 2 months down the road. They're not even worried about that this moment.
But to your point, John Shannon tweeted out, and we're going to have him on the show later in the week. He said prior to the press conference at 4:30, Bettman is having a conference call with the league partners and sponsors. So in terms of advertising, in terms of a plan of what they're going to do, I'm sure he's letting them know what the schedule is going to be, what advertising availabilities are there. I think that's part of this grand plan. Now, to X point, the thing is, yes, we don't know where the world is going to be in the middle of July. All the NHL can do is plan for what is present now and be flexible enough to adjust. If they can't do that, right, and that's the thing. It's like if you're going to shut down like I think Russ said that the Korean Baseball League said if one person was positive that they would shut down the league. That is asinine. You have to plan on somebody potentially getting
right. We know that's not going to happen. They're going to be in it for the long play, like X said, and right now I think they're in a good place. I think today's press conference is a really good step forward. I don't think they're going to have all the questions answered. So, of course, there'll be some people that get grumpy about that. But at least we'll be talking about what they might do. And now it's not even in focus. Like, this is just, it's a little distracting. But
the production quality of this thing is really lacking these days.
But honestly, I mean,
I'm renewing my life insurance on an hourly basis, Jan.
Right now, the league is in a good spot. They really are. Going into this press conference, they're in a very good spot.
Yeah.
And the fact that they still have advertisers, good for them, because, you know, that means a lot. I would probably sell more advertising by beaming ads in the empty seats, but they probably don't want to show the empty seats, but I wouldn't care because I could get more ad revenue.
I think the key thing is they're probably going to figure out maybe green
screening
it. I know I've seen that, or green screen tarp, where basically you can superimpose ads and things of that.
Yeah, I mean, the German game that I watched, and I apologize for being in shadow. But the weird thing about the German game that I watched was that, you know, players would score, and that was exciting, you know, and you're like, okay, this is sports, and I'm watching sports.
How many goals did you see?
One.
That's why everybody was excited.
But, you know, yeah, and then for soccer people, you know, they live for the moments they get once.
They live for that one goal.
To see that one goal once a week, that's worth it. All right, so
I like
one shining moment.
I like soccer.
I love soccer, but I love it too. Wish it forever. So here's the thing: the goal happens, and it's like the players are like excited and run towards each other, you know, and hug. You know, there was no like socially. Now they're doing dishes in the kitchen. This is fantastic. Hey,
so it was like the beaches in Ocean City.
So here, yeah. So but then is the silence that you hear of the crowd, you know, and you really do, and what you heard were the players yelling. Like you heard the players yelling to each other, yeah, great job, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to hear that though, because we're going to hear yeah, we're going to hear a lot of curses. Otherwise, they're not going to
hear
play that.
Kevin Hayes TV.
Yes,
you want it?
Nice bleeping goal.
You want it? I mean, if you talk about like Jan saying, like different ways to market it. There should be a version on HBO. Like there should be, and it's like if I'm them, I'm like putting like a game on HBO.
They did it for The Last Dance. They had a dirty version on ESPN and the clean version on ESPN too. So
that's what I want. I want the live one on I want the live one on HBO and the like 10.
Now this was decades before. They would have been flip flop the other way around. Now we make sure to put it on the main network. That's true. It tells you everything about people's proclivities or things of that sort now.
Here's one more thing. I'm going to take a shot at ESPN because if I were involved with ESPN, I would be a part of this press conference and saying that we are going to be showing X amount of games. I mean, they are showing absolute garbage on their network. And other than the ESPN Plus, which I guess may still be in effect, why wouldn't ESPN cut some?
Come on, Russ. Can't you get into the National Cornhole Championship?
No, but I'm just saying.
I think I know people who are watching that because they play cornhole.
All right. Just
if it can be bet on, they'll broadcast it.
All that aside.
Yeah, it's ESPN Ocho all the time now.
All that aside, don't you think ESPN should have been knocking at the NHL's door trying to horn in on this?
Yeah.
I think so.
You think they will, but they're not going to.
The problem is doesn't NBC still have the rights?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? This is a different season, Jen. You could just say, hey, 2 of the playing games will be on ESPN, whatever. ESPN
and NBC will pitch a you-know-what over it.
No, but
NBC?
But ESPN, I mean, the NHL's been selling additional playoff rights for years now. They have.
I'm telling you right now that,
no, they haven't.
But you're talking about direct competition where NBC has been used to having full product.
Yeah, and they're not going to do it this time because remember they were going to spread the Olympic coverage on CNBC they're not on MSNBC. They're too busy twisting the news. But on a USA Network. I knew I was waiting for that one. But on all of their different channels, so they're going to want all these playoff series on all those different networks. They need the product badly.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think that, and I mean, they have all those. You know, like I love the Olympics now because you can watch any event at any time. It's like the apps are fantastic. You know, they should just do that with the apps and have every single player on the arena on the ice like have his own camera. You can watch any player you want to at any time, just because they've got all this space. They pay for all this space. Let's stream everything possible. Like this is the view from the puck itself. Let's like actually that'd be pretty nauseating. I got something interesting sent to me. Can I show you guys something real quick?
Yeah,
We haven't done it in a while. We haven't done X Attic. So I've been into like lately, one of my little side things is collecting McDonald's stuff that is hockey related, like giveaways from McDonald's that are hockey related. You may have seen like in my office upstairs.
Well, their quarter pounder with cheese has the taste of a hockey puck.
There you go. So I have the trophies they gave out one
We
time.
lose another sponsor.
Really kind of cool. I have the little mini Stanley Cup.
After you just left because of the T-shirt.
All right. Well,
Way to go, Mike.
I got
Sorry.
I got the I was turned on to this. So check this out. So, and I have a question for you guys because you guys are more collectors than I am usually. So McDonald's in Canada put these out a while ago. These are are you familiar with this, Russ?
The mini mask, yeah.
These are the mini masks. They're not too small, actually. I mean, it's about a quarter, an eighth the size of my head. It's not like a tiny mask. You don't think of it like being.
No, I mean they're not like miniature.
Like the old headliners that the NHL used to come out with, those little mini ones.
Yeah, like here's a phone next to it, so it's pretty good size. I mean, it's like a regular size mask. I mean, not regular size, but whatever. So this is Patrick Waz, and this is kind of cool. We all know this one, right? It's Mike Richter's. Kind of neat.
Nice.
I like that one. Yeah.
All right, yeah, those are nice.
Now, my question is, so some of them were sent to me just as that is, and then some of them were sent to me, of course, like this is, this is Jocelyn Tebow, right? So and it was sent to me in a bag, right? So,
oh God, I remember that mask. Yeah.
It's
an awesome.
So it's like this is
People
like,
could play, man.
I know these are, and then there's and then there's one more here, two more. So we have name this mask. All right, I'll just do this.
Hold on, let's see.
This is in a bag too. I feel like taking these things out of the bags. I know it makes them less valuable, right? So, but whatever. So name this one.
Oh, Trevor Kidd.
Eddie Eagle.
Oh no, it's Eddie Eagle. Eddie the Eagle. Sorry.
Belfort.
Yeah.
Now,
I thought that was Trevor Kidd for a second. My eyes weren't set in there.
Chicago days.
Chicago days.
Not the ski jumper from Great Britain. It's Falcon.
How about this one? Alanis Morissette knows it.
Oh,
Mike?
Felix.
Pop band, yeah.
Yep.
Felix Pop band, yeah.
Another great man. Yeah.
So they're kind of cool. And should I take them out of the bags and just put them on a shelf?
I still remember how
just
people were
take 'em out of the
complaining. I
bags.
still
It's
remember when earlier on when the NHL series was out, and they did actually have the EA did actually get the masks in the game, and
I
now
know.
they can't do it anymore. Or
Yeah,
because they lost the rights to it. EA had the deal to it back then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, these are much nice. I mean, I
would take it out. I know you're supposed to keep it in the bag, but you can't display it in the
I hate
bag.
that concept.
Yeah, I would display. Yeah, if you're gonna display it, I would.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're cool. So,
I got my bobbleheads downstairs that we've got.
yeah, there's these. There's jerseys. They did mini jerseys in Canada at one point. I have those too. I'll show them another time. And then mini goalie sticks too. It's interesting. So
I like the goalie sticks. That's a good idea.
yeah, I mean something that this is why I wanted to live in Canada as a child. Like if like go to McDonald's, I don't want another Finding Nemo toy. Like hand me, I'm buying this. Like I'm buying this is cool. I mean, I really like this a lot. It's really.
But then again, here's the thing, Ek. You probably appreciate it even more. Like if you were living up in Canada, be like, another hockey thing.
Yeah.
When you're not around it all the time, I think it's also the same thing with
true. I think
it's true of Americans with like European soccer teams and things of that sort. They buy the jerseys and everything. And
we used to have all that stuff in the States. We have very little of it now. Whether it's in cereal,
80s and early 90s, there was a
ton of it. It was great.
Yeah.
I like that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I bought this year, Ek, was a Cale Makar rookie card that the Tim Hortons cards when they were coming out. I said, you know what? I'll buy one of those because they're kind of hard to find, and I figured he was going to win the Calder, so that would be a fun one.
Are those attached to a cup of coffee?
No, but they give you a pack.
Yeah, no, so
you buy the coffee and the maple donut, and you get the pack.
Yeah, I think what happens is I don't know for sure, but I think if you make a purchase, you get to buy a pack for like $2.99, $3.99, whatever.
And then you also get a vial of insulin with that to prevent the.
I've had the maple, and you're going to need it. You're going to need that afterwards.
You are.
It's a beautiful thing.
Last night I was watching from this from a perfectly legal way, TSN in Canada, and
yeah,
and I was watching, and on TSN came came curling, which is one of my favorite. Honestly, I don't know why, but I get it. I get why. At the beginning, I used to make fun of it so much, but I get why Canadians love curling. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and it's the funniest thing because first of all, there's very few sports that you hear people apologizing in as much as curling, like as it's happening, because just like sorry, too hard. Sorry.
It's the fact that they could drink and play is why it's popular.
I know.
I'm a big fan of women's curling.
Don't you want to play curling one time? Don't you want to go out and do that? I mean,
I didn't mind watching it in the Olympics, but no.
Have you done it?
No,
I've done it. I played it.
Mike's done it. Mike's curled. Excellent. I know the bowling, Mike. I figured you curled.
It's almost as exciting as bowling. It's
I
true.
want to do it. I want to try it. And there is a curling place that opened up not too far from me. Believe it or not.
Yeah, but they're going to make you join the club. They're not going to invite you for one time. That's
like joining a cult.
Russ is far more interested in luging.
I am luging.
Everyone wants to luge. Come on.
Luging was a lot. That was a lot tougher. But I don't mind curling. I probably, if you said, "Hey, we're going to play one night just for fun," I'd probably do it.
Now, if I ever did luge or bobsled, I'd end up like the Jamaican bobsled team on my side with my head dragging along.
No, I did it on dry land, but still you're at like a 30-40% incline, and I was probably going 40 to 50 miles an hour. It's still pretty hairy.
I'd probably reach
Russ, you and I for sure did Action Park, and
oh yeah, I've been to Action Park, but that
doesn't exist anymore. But Action Park was the most dangerous.
It was the most dangerous park.
Action Park.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever do? So you did it too, Anthony?
Yeah.
Did you do the wooden box thing? That's like
yeah, I regrets.
Listen, Action Park
box that had a single lever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the lever was your brake. It doesn't. You couldn't steer the. It was just a brake.
It was basically like it was like Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. That's what it
I'll
felt
tell
like.
you what predated Action Park, what used to get all the commercials, and it was almost as dangerous. Palisades Park. That was also another crazy one that was hairy. Any of those water slides, you were taking your life into your hands with.
Well, Action Park literally had deaths every year.
Oh yeah.
And that was an amazing timing. It wasn't as litigious. You could just get away with that, I guess. But when on the thing,
I don't know if you could just get away with it.
You could. It didn't matter.
You get away with death.
Like you signed something when you went in.
That's like catapult.
Right.
Yeah, my problem.
And you're in the box, and you have this thing, and as you're going down this hill, the only thing you can do is push the wooden thing down, and that would cause incredible sparks. So you're in a wooden box now. Flame sparks are flying all over the place. And yeah, it was just, I just cannot believe it was possible.
Yeah, my problem is if I was in a luge or in a bobsled, I would reach with my current level of girth. I would probably reach terminal velocity and be unable to stop.
Listen, you got to remember, Great Adventure, when they first invented the loop to loop, they had issues. People got stuck upside down.
I know.
People fell out.
People fell out, and that isn't that like one of those things. Like you're going to loop to loop, and you go on a loop to loop, you probably think no one's ever fallen.
I know. I will never go on a loop to loop because ever since those things happened, I'm like, nope.
It is a fun way to die, though.
Oh, yeah, great. Getting back to hockey here for a second. Russ and I were going through a list. Cap Farley tweeted out the list of players who would re-enter the NHL draft or become free agents if they're not signed by their respective teams that have their rights by June the 1st. And we went through the list, and there are a few. I wrote today about Riley Stotts, who was a Leaf third-round pick from 2018. Actually led Calgary in the WHL. Was tied for their club lead in scoring, and right now they have not signed him to an entry-level contract. So they have until next Monday to do so, and it's possible that they will, but I haven't heard much about them getting close to that. And there usually would be some indication that they're close to a deal 4 or 5 days before he would go back into the draft. But there are a few others that we went through. Cederholm from Winnipeg, Russ, Fonstad from Montreal, Nico Gross for the Rangers, and David Bernhardt from Philadelphia.
Yeah, the things I'll say is, like, Bernhardt early on wasn't getting good playing time with his team. And I just think because of the regime change and the fact that they have a ton of defensemen, that's what's happening there. I think he will get drafted again. He's a decent player. And I just think he'll take until like 24, 25 because he didn't have a lot of playing time early. Gross can play, but he's not flashy at anything. And a lot of times when you have a regime change, if you're not a flashy offensive defenseman, you're going to get caught up in this. So I think Gross might get redrafted. Fonstadt could play. I don't understand what Montreal is doing other than they have 13 picks this year. So maybe they're looking at that and saying, yeah, you know what, we're going to run out of contracts. So they're just doing that because they're anticipating what might happen. And then who was the other player, Mike?
Cedarholm.
Cedarholm's a good stay-at-home now. He is not the fleetest of foot guy. So I think that's probably why Winnipeg is – because, again, Winnipeg can use defensemen, right? But I think they're probably worried about his skating, and they already had – issues with that with other draft picks of theirs. So I get it from their standpoint, but this is a good way to get guys that are closer, and maybe you just have to do a little reworking with them. I would say 3 or 4 of them will get drafted. Redraft.
And then the rest probably get signed as AHL.
They'll get signed to AHL deals, yeah.
Yeah. And then, you know, in the case of Stotts, I mean, I look at the Leafs' depth. I mean, obviously they have top 3 centers up at the NHL level with Tavares, Matthews, and Kerfoot. And they have Gauthier and Spezza, and they have a couple developmental guys like Adam Brooks and SDA in Peterborough. But you want depth up the middle, and really they're more deep on the wings than they are at center. So unless they just have soured on Stotts, I'm surprised they haven't gotten him under contract.
I think what the Leafs are also doing, Mike, is they have particular players in mind, and if you don't have the foot speed, they don't want them. Dakota Joshua, you know, he had 11 points. I just looked it up. 20 games in the ECHL, a little less than that in the AHL.
Right.
He's still going to take a couple more years, but he's never going to be the fastest player. The Leafs want these fast and transition team, and I think if you don't meet that criteria, you don't get the shot.
Yeah,
and
they walked. They
True.
walked away from Ryan McGregor last year, who was putting up decent points in the OHL. A couple years ago, Dominic Toninato, who played at Minnesota Duluth, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's in the NHL. He played for Florida last year. Played for I think Colorado before that. So you know, I mean, I'm not saying these guys are going to be star players, but they can be role players. So you know, we'll see what happens.
But they're looking for a particular type. They want speedy guys. Everybody thinks the Leafs just want small, speedy guys. It's not that, but they are looking for guys with foot speed, and I think that's their organizational plan right now.
Right.
They're definitely about the speed, which they should be. That's the NHL right now. I mean, honestly, it is. I mean, if you're not,
have to have a mix though, and some of these guys could help mix.
You want to have it. Yeah, I agree. You want to have it can't all be north south. You have to have guys who are willing to play at levels, or willing to support a more offensive defenseman. Who you have to have kind of a vision for what you want out of that player, and
right.
You know, that's the biggest thing there. You have to have a somewhat of a path with them.
Isn't it more about like really right now, like they say that it's like playing fast versus skating fast?
Yeah,
like,
I think it's
like playing fast you can't get away with not doing. Like right now,
the biggest thing is
you have to play fast.
Yeah, it's really thinking fast. You can have the foot speed. Everybody could have the foot speed, but there are still guys that may have that little bit of hesitation, like Michael McLeod with the Devils. Like he has all the foot speed, but yet he has not really put
but not the sense. Not the hockey sense.
Thinking the game fast. That's the biggest thing now is thinking the game fast. And there are guys that are doing, like Carter Hart has talked about this, and a few players with me, that they go through these mental exercises in the off season to try and speed like their hockey brain up. And I think more players should do that.
Yeah, there is no question that, like, I think if the Vegas Golden Knights taught us anything, that was it. You know, like that's why the Vegas Golden Knights were so good. They played.
Ultimately, that's what made Gretzky so great too, because he thought faster than anybody on either side of the ice.
Right. He wasn't the fastest guy on the ice, but he was definitely the fastest thinker. Like he was ahead of the game for sure, you know. And you know, like I've seen drills done.
Michael say Orr was a faster thinker, but whatever.
I've seen drills at practices that are really kind of cool where you have like 7 guys on the ice and they'll be skating around in like just in random patterns. The coach will blow the whistle. Everybody is supposed to get down on their knees and look into the ice, and then he'll call one person's name, and he'll say, he calls connect me, and he'll say, connect me. Where is Giroux? And without thinking, without being able to look, he's be like, he's here, he's there, he's over there. That's like the way that it's one of the things they're doing to like be like, if there's 7 guys out there, you know where everybody is all the time in your head, so that you know you have that going on.
Yeah, it's like the Ty Webb. No. You just know.
Right, you know where they are, which is a really fascinating thing. And I've seen some guys that are really good at it.
Caddyshack fans.
Some guys that are really bad at it. Like some guys are
Yeah.
bad at it. And
Yeah, and if you are bad at it, it's something that definitely could hamper you because you could have, there are so many guys now that are fast because everybody's being taught how to skate fast. So that's like the next criteria. I mean, that's how much this league has changed, but that's like the next hardest criteria.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And Russ, a donut without a hole is a Danish.
That's for another day, Mike.
By the way, since we talked last time, I
The
did
Dunkin' Munchkin does not have a hole, and that's
get out of here. But you guys convinced me that I should order out for dinner, so I did.
Oh, you did finally.
I did. I haven't done that for a while.
We're busy firing up the grill right now as we speak.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's awesome. We're gonna
smoking away. That's good.
Nothing like having some hot dogs and listening to Gary Bettman talk, Anthony.
Yep.
All right. Well, by the way, so 18 minutes from now, 17 minutes from now, or whatever, we'll have Bettman start to begin, and then he'll tell us what they're thinking.
And I will not live tweet from it. I will not do it.
No, everybody else will be doing it.
Listen, everybody else is going to do it. Just summarize it.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah.
The old-fashioned way. Like everybody used to
have all the
report and have all the facts before firing everything else at the.
Do you remember?
I'm sorry. Old man yells at cloud. I apologize.
Yes, there you go. Nicely done. Nice Simpsons reference. I like that. I don't know if Russ, if you remember it was a Paul Holmgren press conference in the box upstairs years ago, and this is when Twitter was like brand new, and I was one of the few people on Twitter, and had a lot of Twitter followers because of that, and I tweeted out what he was saying as it happened. Like I tweeted out something, and I got in so much freaking.
Oh yeah, I do remember.
I think the other reporters were like, "Oh, you put that out before we were holding the press conference."
Right. That became a whole league-wide issue then.
Yeah, it became a whole thing. Like,
but that's the old story. Everybody's trying to get it first rather than getting it right, and that's been an issue for. Partly, I think the reason why we're in the situation we're in now, anyway.
Yeah, no,
and now everybody
does. Like opinions or rumors. I was just getting it out.
You were doing the verbatim, right?
Yeah, and just something he had said. I forget what it was. It was something like somebody wouldn't be back or whatever, and I put it out there. Boom.
Yeah, no, I remember. Now everybody does it.
Man, because everybody was, everyone's like,
I don't think it's a good thing. I will say that. I was very hesitant. I mean. Even during press conferences, in the locker room, I'd rather listen. I've always felt like you need to listen to the player instead of just immediately firing down and looking at your phone.
I don't disagree with you at all. Yeah. No, but that has definitely gone by the wayside. Like
I agree.
And I mean, there's definitely it's just interesting how like attitudes have changed, in different situations. But all right, there we go. Right. Thank you, Anthony, so much for joining us.
Pleasure. Yep.
So we'll review tomorrow what happened.
Yeah, we'll have a lot to talk about tomorrow. Michael, Mike,
if you burn the hot dogs, let us know.
Yes, join us tomorrow when I tell you how excited I am, and Mike tells you how disappointed he is. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you.